opinion about how AI could be used for future composition?
Well, AI will be used for composition just like all the other inventions have been used. And I think it's important to know that AI is really nothing more than a system that puts things together for you. And to a certain extent, you can say that the sonata form is an AI. It's a way for you to go in and start filling in the details. So you put things into it, and it has certain requirements to be a sonata. Although the requirements are very, very loose. Let's say they're promiscuous.
Yeah.
And so it's not a problem. But the AI essentially is that you can now fool people. But we already had that in music, that there are programs that will orchestrate for you.
Right.
That's AI.
Yeah, and graduate students would do that for you as well.
Yeah. Well, that can be done. But I'm simply saying that you can actually do that. I know IRCAM had developed a system where you could give it a style and it'll work within that. Now we used to walk, now we ride. I don't really see any of that as a particular threat, ultimately. Because in the end, it is the invention of an intelligence and a certain way of hearing that makes that work. So that we can say, oh, that sounds like, and probably 8 times out of 10 will be right.
Yeah.
But then you make a mistake occasionally when a composer was purposefully a little using that style as a start. Let's say Scriabin's early music tends to sound Chopin-esque. A little Lisztian, but Chopin-esque is essentially that kind of a thing. But then later when he developed it to a very different sound. But the sensibility is what's important. Now, the next question is it possible that in the future AI will have a place around the table with human composers? I think that's very possible. I do not think that creativity is just, everything is physical in this world. When people say, well, there's the mind, the soul, and all of that, and they're intelligent, that's fine. You can be extremely intelligent. I'll take a hammer, hit you over the head, and you won't remember your name, and you won't be able to read a book.
Right.
So where is that intelligence? It's physical. I damage the physical part, and you lose it. Ultimately, you lose your life. So when it comes to creativity, is it possible for a cyborg, or whatever we want to call it now, could do it? Yeah, I think so. It might take a long, long time for that to happen. And they might, in the end, take that under advisement, meaning that they'll start working on themselves, trying to develop greater and greater ability to do that. And at some point, all that knowledge and all that will create some kind of, and I don't know what kind, some kind of emotional base. In the same way that we share all of that with the animals all around, including ants and bees and everything, and trees. So I don't think it's impossible. I don't know how probable it is, but I can tell you this, that some very important physicists, including Hawking, has advised us to get busy building things to leave this earth, because he did not believe that we would be able to live on this earth much more.
Mm-hmm.
He felt 100 years was a maximum. And they're doing that. They're working on that.
Yeah.
They are working on that. They're working on the idea of, I read it in one book by one physicist that is very well known for quantum mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
who simply said is that there is no question in his mind that there will be building robots, they would call robots, but probably will change that eventually, that are able to work on Mars and start, let's say, I'm just using that as an example.
Right.
Because Mars, there is belief among some of them that Mars had at one point in time intelligent life, in other words, some kind of organic life,
Mm-hmm.
because there's still water there,
Right.
and so on, and other signs, to rebuild it and start developing air around it. And it has to be who? It has to be beings that don't need air.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? Because if we go there, we have to have air in us, and we have to live in an enclosed situation where we create the air.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fun film, I forgot it's titled Mars in it. It was made by Ridley Scott, about the team that went to Mars, and they left somebody there accidentally.
Oops.
But they already had buildings that they had started already, creating air in balloons, so to speak, in gas houses,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. So he had to continue that, and then he had to eat, so he had to build a garden and such, and he
Mm-hmm.
needed, manure for that, so, and so he raised food that way and all that. So, I mean, these are all fanciful things, I understand, but these are completely possible, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, Da Vinci already created the idea of a submarine, which was, for everybody else, which is crazy. They can barely,
Mm-hmm.
avoid catastrophes on a ship. So how in the hell are they going to do it there? How are they going to have air there? Blah, 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 blah. So, but imagination can really take you anywhere eventually where you go. It may take a number of generations, but it's possible.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say by any means that it's impossible. But how probable it all is really will depend a lot on us. I think in principle it's completely probable. I don't see any reason why you can't, say 100 years from now, 150 years from now, be able to invite a robotic family to dinner and you guys go on trips together. The problem would be that they would have to be based on a slightly different DNA, because we can't help but have wars.
Right.
We just seem to gravitate to them.
Mm-hmm.
And with them, they would be more powerful than we are. And so if they have too many human characteristics, they would make us slaves.